Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the too kind introduction, and thank you for placing me here, class of 2025. You all look radiant. I'm sure this past year has been a blur for many of us, a roller coaster full of celebrations, moments of terrible anticipation, and milestones galore. My favorite one personally happened about 3 weeks ago, and now I get to obnoxiously use my husband in casual conversation. Thank you. I will say, getting married, just like with medical school, required metric tons of support, luck, and meticulous work from family, friends, my husband. So make sure to thank and cherish your own crew that made it possible for you to be here today. Getting married also made me think a lot about love, what it means on the macro, the micro, the day-to-day, in sickness and in health. To me, I realized love is required to be an excellent physician. The first and often ignored level of love is in our surroundings. Right now, we are inside of a 209-year-old vessel, one that's wet wooden benches and red carpets have seen hundreds of thousands of bodies repeatedly press on their beams and their fibers. When broken, they've been repaired. When muddied, they've been washed. This is love. In your own homes, where you've created spaces that protected and nourished you for your med school years, this was also love. When the salty ocean breeze filled your lungs as you crossed the Providence River Bridge on a late night, that too was love. During my first rotation at the VA, in my first month of inpatient medicine, when I felt like I knew nothing, I would bike or walk through Davis Park to get to the hospital. This beautiful cherry tree in the park, first blooming and then loaded with cherries, was where I would stop to process the day, eat one cherry, and breathe as a neighbor collected others into her plastic bags. At Rhode Island Hospital, on my surgery rotation, rushing from rounds to the OR, I caught myself stuck, staring at the magnolia in the middle of the hospital, absolutely flowering her heart out. Covered in white petals, it was just me and a janitor standing at the window for a moment as dozens of people passed by. I don't remember what I was stressed about that day, but I remember the tree, and I remember our conversation. By stopping, I could reset, meet others as my best self, step out of the groove. Our environment, it sustains us, it loves us, and we have a hand in creating that love. A cherry tree, a magnolia, a simple pothos in your workroom, or a weird meme taped to the intern lounge. It's easy to rush through a day, forget the wind and the trees, dishes in the sink, but stopping to sustain and plant what you love in your environment will always reward you. So try to touch all spaces with who you are outside of the groove. This groove I mentioned, I'm sure you all know it well. We've dipped into or fully swum in it for years. Test prep, lab work, rounds and notes, networking. I remember a fellow med student mentioned this nightmare that they had during their second year. They dreamed they were a trout in a stream, surrounded and crushed by other trout, unable to swim back and exhausted. Convinced that if they stopped, they would die. I learned in my third year that stopping was not a death sentence. I didn't lose anything by eating a cherry, by talking to the janitor, or by talking to my patients. Those were the moments that sustained me, that let me shine. The stream, the groove, it has no end. We will be swimming for a very, very long time. So take a moment to pass on this love of your surroundings and this permission to stop to others. Share your honest knowledge with your fellow residents, your med students, share lunch, share playlists. Stop with your patients, hear their stories and share yours, and return in the evening. Does the hospital reward this behavior? No. Do you get more RVUs for looking at the magnolia tree? No. But you get to stay human, and I think that's important. By loving those around you in this way, you can get to the next level. When you're yourself in the hospital, when you're honest, kind, present, you can do the best thing, which is truly love the work. You know, we all know these physicians, our mentors for the past 4 years, people who radiate a love for their specialty, for their patients. They teach whenever they can. They are as hungry to learn as we are, soaking up knowledge like Surgicel and immediately incorporating it into their practice. There's so much beauty and so many lessons in the practice of medicine, and to appreciate them, you need love. As a small example, we have all probably explained to our patients why their cholesterol being high is not ideal for their long-term health and leads to that cholesterol building up in the vessel and hardening those vessels, aka atherosclerosis. But how does that sclerosis actually happen? When my husband, a mechanical engineer, asked about this and was not satisfied with just inflammation, I paused. I realized I either didn't remember or never had a deeper understanding of this. So we dove deeper. We found out that one of the main mechanisms was smooth muscle cells that make up our blood vessels start making bone due to inflammation from their neighboring white blood cells, dealing with that extra cholesterol, walling off the problem area. Muscle making bone is one of the coolest molecular adaptations that I've learned about, and it only happened because I didn't wave away his curiosity. If you sense that sprout of curiosity and care from friends, colleagues, patients, feed it. Talk through your reasoning, refresh your understanding, come back to them to nerd out. We all have a deep love of biology, and learning about those new scientific discoveries, new techniques, new perspectives, those will keep you from being ultimately dismissive and burnout. It's also too easy to ignore a knowledge gap, a small miss, but please stay honest with yourself. We have spent almost a decade in higher learning, understanding the value of statistical rigor and the scientific process, and at least a few hours of module time re-listening to the Swiss cheese model of safety on 2 times speed. So cite your sources. Thank you, Sutton et al. 2022 and Pan et al. 23. And give credit when it is due. These are the true scientific forms of love and appreciation. Finally, the hardest level for many of us is loving and appreciating yourself. So often, it is easy to forget how hard you worked to get to where you are right now, to dismiss the smaller achievements along the way, but you made it. You turned in the paperwork on time. You passed your exams and your OSCEs. You made that poster, submitted that manuscript for the 3rd time, and you finally left the hospital after 7 p.m. After the 7th, is there anything else that I can help with? At a minimum, you made it through 8 years of hard-earned education and academia and earned a couple degrees and a fancy hat. No small feat. However you celebrate today publicly, I recommend also taking a private moment with yourself to recognize where you are. At some point, it was grueling, and no one can recognize your suffering and your stamina the way you can. So please do. I'm counting on all of us now to spread that love for the work, our colleagues, our patients, our environments, and ourselves to our future institutions. Love is not a recognized virtue of a great physician at all places, but I hope today you can see why I think it is. Love those close to you today. Love those you will grow close to soon. And when July 1st comes, please remember to love you. I love you lots, class of 2025.